So during Quantum Break, the kind of first seeds were kind of inserted, created. So right after Quantum Break, me and Sam started to kind of conceptualize like the core ideas. And instead of starting with the screenplay and the plot as we usually do, we wanted to first think about the world. What is this place? And that's when we came up with the idea of the oldest house, this strange shifting place that seems from the outside like a normal building, but as you go through that front door, this new universe basically opens up, an infinite shifting place. And that's when we created the idea of the Bureau, this organization that investigates and tries to understand supernatural phenomena and also to contain it. And then the idea of the Hiss, this supernatural strange force that invades this place and basically corrupts and shifts it into something else, something weird and strange, and also the humans within it. And once we had that nailed down, like these three different core concepts, Hiss, Oldest House, and the Bureau, then we started to think about, okay, what is the story or stories that we actually want to tell? And there's a main plot, of course, that's all about Jessie, who's the main protagonist, who basically becomes the director of this organization that she doesn't really understand or know within the 10 first minutes of the game. And we wanted to have this kind of sense of being thrown into the deep end. And the key was to make sure that Jessie also feels like that together with the player. And yeah, that was the starting point, that we create a world that can contain multiple different stories. So there is a main campaign, but there's also side missions, there's a lot of secrets, a lore, and so on. And started right after Quantum Break pretty much, and 3 years later, here we are. It was key that it feels like an unpredictable place. And one of the metaphors I sometimes use of this building is that it's like a human body, and when the Hiss invades, it's like a disease. And you can see these elements affecting the building, it's warping into something else and becoming infected, if you will. And then Jessie, comes in and cleanses it or heals, and then it kind of keeps shifting back. So it is about finding these layers of elements that paints a picture of what is this place like and how it can be affected by different phenomena, and then it's expressed in different ways. And it's a combination of elements.
Yeah, definitely. From a story and gameplay perspective too, when you have now a world that is open-ended and you can go back and access new areas that you've been through before with new abilities like Levitate, where you can now access higher areas of the Bureau, but also side missions where you uncover new abilities. You could uncover them at the start of the game or towards the middle of the game, so there's potentially narrative content that you could be experiencing early on or in the middle of the game. So we had to think about all the permutations of if a player had played through, mission 1, 2, 3 and got evade and shield, but also a player who perhaps hadn't found those just yet and didn't know what they know after, those side missions. So there's a challenge to having a linear story that then builds out, and what documents in the world that the player could feasibly find about the things that they've seen. So it makes no sense to show them a document about an ability that they can't get for another few missions because they will forget about it. So when you have a straightforward linear, gameplay that takes you through those experiences, they're great and enjoyable too. But when you have, you can very much control what information a player is getting, like we could do in Quantum Break. But in Control, that's an extra challenge on top of it.
Right, it's actually crazy when you let people play the game, the way they are able to figure a lot of things out, or find new ways to kind of go through environments. It kind of keeps surprising us. And that's actually a huge part of why we have an approach in this game where we try to avoid hand-holding and spoon-feeding, like what to do at any given time. So there's no question markers, for instance, on the HUD or anything like that. We give you the motivation, the information, and then it's up to you to figure it out, like, what path to take or pay attention to the environment, like at the signs and so on where to go. Yes, there's a map, but that's there just to kind of allow you to kind of understand what is your relationship with the environment and where you can actually go and how large the sector is, for instance, where you are. So, but it was important for us that we don't handhold, we don't spoon feed, and let people take their time and trust the players that they will figure it out, because they always do. It's incredible actually how quickly many people figure out what's going on, even though it is very complex sometimes or very confusing.
I was just thinking it's really funny. Sometimes people spend a lot of time in the bathrooms. Yeah, and like looking for, because there sometimes really good loot in the bathrooms always. But also people use the launch ability a lot and just play around, and it's really fun to watch that. Like, I don't know, like that's pleasantly surprising sometimes.